Right, this is part 4. I'm talking like an Oklahoman. Interesting. I just did a search on the Harry Potter characters. I did not see any that were the same, but I saw quite a few that were odd. It'd be interesting to do a word search on those and see where some of those originated from. Anyway, just wanted to let you know. Okay, so we left off on some of the headlines that are in the headlines today of the manipulating DNA. So we went over Enoch 6 and 7, and then what they were doing with the altering the DNA of the plants and the animals and humans. Okay. Now, it says that these Nephilim giants were 3,000 ells. I tried to find out what an ell was, and there was lots of varying opinions. And I think because it was so long ago, we really don't have anything to go by. Some say over 11,000 feet. That's huge. There were varying degrees from 11,000 feet to 450 feet to, we have on account in the Old Testament, Og was 15 feet, and they estimate Goliath to be 10 feet. Still pretty big, but here's what I think happened. This is my opinion. I think that the original Nephilim were huge. I think that even though 11,000 feet is probably a stretch, could it really be that big of a stretch? I don't know. But I think that over the generations, okay, we know, because we'll get into that in a minute. You know, yes, the Nephilim were wiped out with the flood. Okay, that's why God sent the flood. But the giants reappeared again, and for some reason, they got smaller in size, I think. And we'll go over that. We will get there. But that's just something to think about, right? Okay. So we went over the fact that they were evil, they were void of any good, and that they were, the Lord says, He had made man on earth and he was grieved at heart, okay, because they were continually wicked thoughts all the time. Once you get a picture of this whole situation here surrounding the days of Noah, you can read the other scriptures with a different light and a different view, or should I say with a better revelation and a better picture of the full picture. That makes sense? So, and we'll get to those scriptures in a minute. But, so they taught them charms and enchantments, you know, having sex with animals. They were manipulating, they were crossing animal breeds together, okay, which they shouldn't have done. And they were drinking of the blood. I want you to think about the history books on Greek mythology, all right? Percy Jackson series, the things, I always refer to movies and TV shows because people think, oh, all that is fiction, right? But I think the media is way smarter than what we give them credit for, right? Because here's part of this deception plan, the plan of deception. They want us to think that all of that's mythology and there's nothing to any of this. Those Christians, so there's some of us that know that the spirit realm is real, that there is a spirit realm that we cannot see. And to some of us, that spirit realm is more real than the reality that we live in. Okay? Think back to the Greek mythology of, you know, I'm thinking of even Chronicles of Narnia, half man, half horse. I forget what those were called. It just left my mind, but you know what I'm talking about. We have these drawings in the Egyptian walls of different, you know, half human, half animal beings We have these Egyptians with, let's see, half snake, half serpent, half, human bodies. We have, and they're supposedly gods. Okay, these are the gods that they worshipped, right? A lot of these things were people that they worshipped. No, I didn't mean Greek mythology. I meant the Egyptians. Sorry. But also go back to the Greek mythology, because that's the same stuff. You got half animal, half human beings. You have worship of these Greek gods. They call them Greek gods. Zeus, Hades, Isis, all the other names kind of escape me because I don't have any notes on this. It was just a thought that came to me. So you think about all that, and I think this is part of the deception, okay? The media wants us to think that all that stuff is fake. They want us numb to the spirit realm. They want us numb to the supernatural. So, because we know in the Bible that when it talks about the Antichrist coming up on the earth, that he's going to do there's going to be a deception. Okay, he's going to deceive a lot of people. This is going to be the biggest deception of all time, since the beginning of time. Okay, this is the biggest deception that's going to happen. And so he's got to do some pretty amazing things to deceive that many people. The Bible also says that there's going to be people who fall away from Christ because of this deception. So, I mean, there's got to be some pretty big things that he's going to do. We know that he counterfeits everything that God does. He's a counterfeiter. He can't create anything. He doesn't create anything. God's the only creator. But what he does is manipulate what God has created, okay? And then he counterfeits everything that God does. Okay, God has a heavenly language. We call that speaking in tongues. Well, devils and demons and fallen angels, they have their own tongues. And what may seem like is God is not. Now, a person who has a spirit of discernment can discern those things, and they'll know what's of God and what's not of God. And there's a scripture that says, test the spirits. That's why we're told to test the spirits, because there's going to be a lot of counterfeit. There's going to be a lot of counterfeit. Right now, there's a lot of counterfeit, and people are falling into a lot of deception because they're having an experience, they're having a supernatural experience, and they go and they try to search it out, and all of a sudden they're led to all these things that are not actually of God, but of hell, of the devil, of Satan, and his counterfeit way of doing things. And I'm only telling you this because of my own experience, okay? So I just want you to get a better picture of everything that the media is pushing down our throats, that Hollywood is pushing down our throats with the movies and the TV shows and even the reality shows, that they are forming now. Okay, it's all part of this huge deception that's coming in the end, in my opinion. That's what I believe. It's all part of it. They're wanting to dumb us down and numb us so that we're so used to seeing these things on TV that if any of this stuff happens in real life, we're not going to be surprised and we're going to follow after them, all right? We can't do that. That's why we got to know the truth, all right? We got to know what's of God and what's not of God, all right? So we have all of this, and I was thinking in chapter 7, drinking of the blood, charms and enchantments. I was thinking about the witches and the Satanism, any form of Satanism requires a blood sacrifice. See, again, that's counterfeit. Satan one's wanting to set himself up as God, and he copies everything that God does, right? God sent Jesus as a sacrifice, and Satan requires blood from a sacrifice, right? This, the more you research that and you come into that revelation, the more you'll know that one and be able to spot those things. All right, so the Nephilim are bad, evil, empty souls. We're going to go into and read Enoch 8. Excuse me while I put on my glasses here because my eyes are getting tired. I've been doing a lot of reading and stuff from electronics the past couple of days. Okay, so Enoch 8, verses 1 through 3. Here we have Enoch calls these angels that came down watcher angels. And here's the history on that part. Okay, so you have God in the garden walking among us, walking among Adam and Eve. And because of sin, because sin came in, and we handed the keys back over to Satan, God's presence left. So even though we have no, I don't think we even have any scripture saying that God even talked to Adam and Eve or anybody in here except Enoch. We know that Enoch was walked habitually with God, right, in fellowship with God. Adam and Eve probably did too, but his presence was not here anymore. That's what I'm trying to get at. And so the Holy Spirit hasn't come yet because Jesus has not sent him because he has not been here. And so according to the Book of Enoch, this historical text, God sent these watcher angels down to teach man how to farm, how to plant, how to raise animals, how to breed the seed together correctly so they can have food to eat. When he said in I know we just read that. Where was that? Okay. Well, when he said, you shall have all the food to eat. Okay. There's different areas in here. It kind of goes back and forth, but we read that where he talks about and he says, or that was actually in Noah. Never mind. But he says, you know, part of the curse was you're going to till the ground and you're going to have to work for your food now. You're going to have to work for what you need to live on this earth. All right? So these watcher angels came down, according to the Book of Enoch, and helped them. They had to have some knowledge, a way to get knowledge and information on how to do these things. All right? So in Enoch 8, we have this, he's getting ready to tell us what these watcher angels taught these people. Now this is when they, you know, they made this plan together to take as many wives as they wanted, and they were going to have their own children, and things were going to be wonderful upon the earth for them, and then their children ended up being evil and started eating man and all kinds of stuff, okay? And this is what these watcher angels did. Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones and all coloring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. Simjaz taught enchantments and root cuttings. Armoros, the resolving of enchantments. Barakwajal taught astrology. Kokobel, the constellations. Ezequiel, the knowledge of the clouds. Araquil, the signs of the earth. Shamsiel, the signs of the sun. And Sariel, the course of the moon. All right, so then we have what they taught. Now, they weren't supposed to teach them all those things. They taught some things that God never intended them to learn. And so I want you to think about the pyramids. Okay, we have, as we're in school, we have this picture in our heads that we're given of this little Egyptian man with paint all over him, right? They're all painted up with a hammer and a chisel. And there's these big stones being hoisted up by this rope that they've made out of some kind of plant material. And there's just it's like this big old production, right? There's lots of them out there trying to build this pyramid. And they've got these round wheels made out of wood. And these things are hauling this dirt back and forth, right? And these stones. After reading Enoch, could it be, because now we have the giants, the Nephilim, now we have man learning this knowledge that's being passed down from the Watchers about iron, the metals of the earth. These Watcher angels knew things beyond the human brain, right? Because they're spirits. They had some of the knowledge of, I'm sorry, I'm saying again. They had the knowledge of heavenly knowledge. So could it be, if you think about some of the structures that we have today on the earth, like the pyramids, think about Easter Island, those big statues that are in the middle of nowhere, that they far outweigh, some of these things far outweigh our thinking as to how they can come together so perfectly mathematically and so precise, and they have these precise angles, and it's the stone is cut just perfectly, and they fit together just perfectly, and there's no way that they could have done any of that with a hammer and a chisel. I'm sorry, they're just in any way, and without having the knowledge of how to do all that stuff. So I want you to think about that, right? Could it be that there's another explanation of how all these things got there? Could this be the explanation? Could this be the missing link in a lot of things that are unexplainable as to how these ancient civilizations, we call them ancient civilizations, our textbooks call them ancient civilizations. Think about the Mayans, right? Could this be how they came into all that knowledge? That's just a thought. Think about it. All right. So we're going to go back to the Book of Enoch. We're going to read chapter 9, verses 1 through 11. Excuse me. Okay. So here we have this conversation between the heavenly angels and God, right? Because these heavenly angels, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, are all looking down from heaven, and they're observing all these things that are going on the earth. And they're coming before God, and they're telling him basically the state of affairs on the earth. And then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from heaven and saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and all lawlessness being wrought upon the earth. And they said to one another, The earth made without inhabitant cries, the voice of their cryings up to the gates of heaven. And now to you, the holy ones of heaven, the souls of men make their suit, saying, Bring our cause before the Most High. And they said to the Lord of the ages, Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, and God of all the ages, the throne of thy glory standeth unto all the generation of the ages. In thy name holy and glorious and blessed unto all the ages, thou hast made all things, and power over all things hast thou. And all things are naked and open in thy sight, and thou seest all things, and nothing can hide itself from thee. Thou seest what Azazel hath done, who hath taught all unrighteousness on the earth, and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn. And Simjaza, to whom thou hast given authority to bear rule over his associates. And they have gone to the daughters of men upon the earth, and have slept with the woman, and have defiled themselves, and revealed to them all kinds of sins. And the women have borne giants, and the whole earth has hereby been filled with blood and unrighteousness. And now, behold, the souls of those who have died are crying and making their suit to the gates of heaven, and their lamentations have ascended, and cannot cease because of the lawless deeds which are wrought on the earth. And thou knowest all things before they come to pass, and thou seest these things, and thou dost suffer them. And thou dost not say to us what we are to do to them in regard to these. Okay, so they take all of these things that are going on before God, and they say, hey, tell us what to do. You are the God, you are the God above all gods, and you created this earth, and hey, everything's before you. Tell us what to do, and we'll do it for you. Give us some instructions here, right? So God goes on to tell Uriel to go tell Noah to hide himself. I'm sorry, I got a big glare on these. Tell Noah to hide himself, and tell him that I'm going to send a flood on the earth, right? So in Genesis 6:8, goodness, I'm sorry for all these things. I don't know if you can hear all those dings. Verse 8, but Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Thank God Noah was a person that followed after his grandfathers, habitually walking with God, right? This is the history of the generations of Noah. Noah was a just and righteous man, blameless in his evil generation, and Noah walked in fellowship with God. Noah became the father of 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth was depraved and putrid in God's sight, and the land was filled with violence, desecration, infringement, outrage, assault, and lust for power. And God looked upon the world and saw how degenerate, debased, and vicious it was. For all humanity had corrupted their way upon the earth and lost their true direction. And God said to Noah, I intend to make an end of all flesh, for through men the land is filled with violence, and behold, I will destroy them in the land. So he gives them specific instructions on building the ark. He gives them specific instructions on what to do for the rooms and different things, what to make them out of. Right? And then you go down to verse 19. And of every living thing of all flesh found on land, you shall bring two of every sort into the ark, to keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female. Of fowls and birds according to their kinds, of beasts according to their kinds, of every creeping thing of the ground according to its kind. 2 of every sort shall come in with you, and they may be kept alive. Also take with you every sort of food that is eaten, and you shall collect and store it up, and it shall serve as food for you and for them. And Noah did this of all that God commanded him. All right. Thank goodness that Noah was found faithful in God's eyes. And I want you to get this. God, regardless of how bad everyone else was being on the earth, regardless of Adam and Eve giving back the keys to the kingdom to Satan, God is trusting man again. He is going to reestablish his covenant with Noah. It amazes me that the love that God has for us, he continually puts his trust in us. We forget that God trusts us, okay? We need to remember that. All right, so we're at 25 minutes, and I'm going to cut this off. And we'll pick it up from here, all right? We're getting to the exciting stuff. All right, be best, guys. Bye.